Welcome back to Hear Me Out Diaries. Hi guys. Sorry I took such a long break. Oh, hi Mama. Hi. Okay. Yes, you saying hi? I know. Oh, yes. Okay. Yeah. So sorry. Got Stella in here. I got Honey right here next to me. So I apologize if they're kind of making sounds or moving around and stuff, but they love to hang out. Anyways, this episode today, I've decided to talk about something very near and dear to my heart, very vulnerable. I know I've talked about it a little bit here and there, just like small little things, but I'm gonna actually try to go a little bit more in detail this time. And I'm actually going to talk about dealing with sickness while serving in the military, serving while sick. And so if you see me looking down or like reading, I just kept a lot of bullet points because it is a lot. And unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to get to everything today, but I'll do my best. But also, too, who knows, maybe later on in the podcast, I can try to start talking a little bit more. Like I said, I'm pretty open about everything that I've gone through and what's going on in my life, but I feel like there's a lot of things that happen behind closed doors that people don't really necessarily know. And I'm going to try to do my best to be vulnerable today with you guys, and so just please bear with me. These things are very tough to talk about, and I do want to give a little bit of a warning. But I would say the one thing that I'll say coming out of this is a quote that I've been living for as I've started thinking about talking about this podcast was the hardest thing I've ever survived wasn't infertility, wasn't divorce, it wasn't chronic illness. It's realizing how many people leave or disappear when life gets ugly. And that's been honestly one of the toughest pills to swallow. But before we get into this episode, I want to know about you guys. Have you ever had something wrong with you that nobody believed? Whether it was physical, mental, emotional, whatever it was, send me a message, leave me a comment, because I know I'm not the only one who's been told you're fine when absolutely you're not fine. Today's episode is called The Invisible War Serving While Sick. And I mean the kind of sick where your body is setting off alarm bells like a fire drill and everybody around you is acting like they don't hear it. So people saw me at work all day. People thought, I think like the biggest culprit behind the chronic illnesses that I'll be talking about today is people just assume because you can't see it, that you're fine. People would always see me smiling at work and saw me at work doing day-to-day things. But what they didn't see was me crying in the bathroom due to whatever symptoms I was having going on during that day. What they didn't see was that deep down I was losing my mind for years. And it took a long time for me to realize that I needed to advocate for myself. What people didn't see were all the surgeries, all my infertility treatments, medications, pain, exhaustion, and all the nights I spent staring at the ceiling wondering, was I ever going to get help? Whether it was medication, treatment, or even just a diagnosis, because what I knew was something was not right. And the crazy part was I kept hearing everything looks normal so many times. I thought that I was losing my mind and maybe I was making it up in my head. Spoiler, they were not right. My body wasn't lying and I was super exhausted. Some of the symptoms that I was going through was severe sunlight issues with being in the sun. Yes, I am very pale, so people just assume, oh, she's pale, she probably just gets sunburned. No, like this wasn't really weird form of being out in the sun. Like, I'm gonna try to post pictures with like my podcast so that you guys can see some of the things, but I'm gonna try to find this photo and hopefully I can find it and I'll post it with my podcast. So if you see the picture in there, then I happened to find it. I would get these weird, like I'd be out in the sun, I'd wear sunscreen, and I would get these blotchy, like sun I forgot what they call them, but they call them photosensitivity rashes. And I would get them like on my legs, my arms, my chest. Um, and one of the biggest things was this rash that would grow like right here on my cheeks and on my nose, um, which ended up being something called a malar rash or a butterfly rash. Um, I would have intense coma naps. Like when I say I cannot nap, I can come home, go to bed, at 5 o'clock and sleep till the next day into work. And it was getting so bad to the point to where I'd sleep through my alarms, I'd miss PT, or I'd make it to work late. I started falling asleep behind the wheel. That happened quite a few times. I get these insane like mouth sores, nose sores, and the worst joint pain I have ever felt in my life. I mean, at the end of the day, being active duty, being in the military, just having to stay physically in shape and like going to all these trainings, you are going to be, sore and things like that. This pain is undescribable. And I remember there was times when I would just crawl into this little bundle and just cry and not understand like why was my body aching so badly. And it would be like my hands have gotten better, but my hands, my knees, my hips, my feet, like it's hard to even explain to you like how bad it was. But I would always get told like you're too young, like the signs aren't there, like some of your blood tests would come back showing some stuff, but some wouldn't. And it took years for someone to finally like took me seriously. But the one thing that I'll say is after going through all of this, do not stop advocating for yourself, because eventually somebody finally listened to me. Years and years and years and years later, they finally listened. Before I explain like exactly what I got diagnosed with or what they found out was wrong with me, how many of you actually have heard of, and I apologize, I don't say them very well, so I apologize if I say them wrong, but how many of you have heard of lupus erythematosus, endometriosis, or adenomyosis before today? Because I had no clue what these conditions were, and I didn't know how they could impact my life until it became my life. Lupus is an autoimmune disease. Instead of protecting your body, your immune system attacks healthy tissue. It can cause extreme fatigue, joint pain, rashes, inflammation, and it can affect almost every part of your body. Lupus is a very complicated disease. Most people don't realize that with lupus, there's different forms of it. Many of you know Selena Gomez. She has lupus nephritis, so hers was affecting her kidneys. Like I said, I could sit here and go into all these medical terms for you, but I am still very new to it as well. The one thing that I'll say that I've been very fortunate with is it hasn't started affecting my whole entire body. So far, it's only affected my skin. So I have, it's called, some people know it as discoid lupus. You guys know the singer Seal, he has discoid lupus. But it's also called subacute cutaneous lupus, which is what I have. So the rash that I was getting on my face was a butterfly rash, which was a sign of lupus. It hasn't affected my kidneys. It hasn't affected any of my other organs. So I'm very grateful for that. They do think that they've caught it early, so I've been very fortunate with it. And I have been on some medication to help with it. Endometriosis. Endometriosis is when tissue similar to the lining of the uterus grows outside of the uterus. It can cause severe pain, inflammation, scar tissue, and fertility issues. Endometriosis, I feel like, is one, it's not understood right. And I think it's just because there's not enough data and studies, and so many people just assume, oh, it's a reproductive disease. No, it is a full body disease. It is now being considered an inflammatory disease. The lining that's similar to what's inside of your uterus grows everywhere. And it's been found to grow on the brain, the lungs, the diaphragm, the bowels, the rectum, just places you'd never even imagine. And so, like, that's just like one of the craziest things. The other one is adenomyosis. I'm probably saying it wrong, so I promise. It's either adeno or adeno adenomyosis. So it's when the same type of tissue that grows in the uterus grows into the muscular wall of the uterus itself. It can cause debilitating cramps, heavy bleeding, chronic pain, and can make it harder to achieve and maintain pregnancy. So since I was 16 years old, my periods have been excruciating. I've always been told, like, oh, because you're a smaller female, you're more petite. For some reason, smaller females tend to have worse periods. And I don't understand that logic because that is not true. Like, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what size you are. Your periods can be just as debilitating as someone that is, has more weight on them compared to someone that is like super small or tiny or doesn't weigh as much. So I definitely think that type of logic or that type of thinking is not accurate. In between the ages of 14 and 16, it was very weird. But my periods have been debilitating to the point to where I remember when I was a kid, there was times they would take me out at school, like I couldn't go to school and things like that. I don't remember exactly how severe it was, but I know that ever since I was an adult, since the time I started trying to have a baby when I was 23 years old, my cramps have been insane. And when people tell you, like, oh, cramping is normal, blah, 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 if you have cramps that make it to where you are unable to work, to perform any normal day-to-day activities or be social, not normal. I do not care if an OBGYN or if a doctor or someone tells you that, run. Find another doctor, because at the end of the day, that is not true. And I was told that for so many years. And I knew for a fact that I was like, well, these cramps are just not normal. And then too, my bleeding has always been super, not even irregular, but heavy. And I didn't understand that part either, because there is a certain amount that you're supposed to bleed, but if like you're going through pads and tampons like no other throughout your day, like for me, I'd say I probably go through two tampons an hour. It just depends. So then I finally had my first laparoscopy. For those of you that don't know, a laparoscopy is where it just depends on how they do it. So for mine, they went in with a camera into my belly button, and then on the right side, they cut a little incision and they went in with a camera. The sad part was to be able to get my laparoscopy done, because I knew I was suspicious of having endometriosis since 2021. It took till 24 for a doctor on base in the military to take me seriously. Active duty military, can't just go get seen off base for anything. So if a doctor says like, hey, we need you to get seen on base first, and then sometimes we can put in for like a request to get seen off base. It just depends. But my base here at Travis, we have an OB/GYN on base that we will see. And so I got seen by her, and she had told me, and I still to this day will never understand it, they were willing to do the laparoscopy after another embryo transfer would fail. They wanted me to do one more before they would do the surgery. Most of you have known I went through IVF for 3 years. And I will, to this day, I will never understand that. How are you going to be able to want a patient to go through another heartache of losing an embryo before you'll actually take them serious? Like, I will never understand it, and I will always be a huge advocate for other people, because having to lose that embryo, like, it scarred me, and I grieved for a long time for it, and I still don't understand it. And anyways, so when they went in, they looked around and everything, and did not take any biopsies, nothing. Looked in there, said, everything looks normal. Did a DNC, which most of you, if you do or do not know, a DNC is what they do when a woman miscarries or a woman is asking for an abortion. They'll do something called a DNC. It stands for something. No, I think it's called dilation and curettage. I'm sorry if I am. But anyway, so they went in and scraped around. They checked my tubes. Tubes are completely cleared. And she looked around and was like, I didn't see anything. But didn't even, everyone knows with endometriosis, the only way to definitively diagnose it is you have to go in laparoscopy. You have to take tissue and you have to get it biopsy. That is the only way to officially diagnose somebody with something. So at the end of the day, she pretty much told me, like, she's not a specialist. She's not experienced in endometriosis. So that she's like, you could still have it, but as of right now, everything looks normal. And then I deployed. I don't know how to feel about everything that I've gone through. I still grieve from day to day about it, but that's not how you treat your airmen, your troops, your soldiers, your seamen. You don't treat your people like that, especially if they're coming to you telling you something was wrong. Like, I went to my doctor for years and being told over and over again, like, hey, we don't know what's wrong with you. But from everything that we're looking at, everything is normal. You do not have 3 egg collections, 4 embryo transfers, 6 embryos total, have a miscarriage from one of them, and the whole other 4 do not implant with no reason as to why. Doesn't make sense at all. Like, I will forever have that question in my mind, and I will always advocate for other people and be like, don't give up, because at the end of the day, if I would have given up, I wouldn't be where I'm at now. I had already lost so much. I had already lost 5 embryos by the time I had my first laparoscopy. And in my heart, I knew, like, deep down, like, I knew something was wrong. I'm like, if I transfer this embryo, like, something's just not right. This embryo, we had named him. His name was Liam. We knew he was a boy. In the United States, you're able to know the genders. When we did our first egg collection in Greece, about 3-4 years, 2022, when we did our first collection, we weren't able to know the genders. It wasn't something that they did back then. It wasn't. It was considered illegal. But here in the States, they let you know. And I put way too much of my heart into this embryo. And I think when you know the gender, it makes it so much more real. Like, I had gotten so excited. I have a box full of baby clothes that I had bought in for him that I still, to this day, can't get rid of, just because it's a part of my life, a part of my journey that I'll never forget. I had this adorable bear that I had also bought for him. It was like an old-fashioned Winnie the Pooh. I did finally end up giving it to one of my really good friends from high school. She had her miracle baby boy, and so I sent her that bear, and just told her, like, this bear means a lot to me. So, your son is a miracle baby, and I want him to have it. And so she took it, and that just melts my heart to this day, knowing that he has that bear. Because Liam didn't make it, he didn't implant. He didn't get that opportunity to grow inside me, and I didn't get that opportunity to hold him. But it took me having that surgery, losing Liam, having that surgery, and then deploying, losing a crap ton of weight. Like, when I tell you guys I lost 65 pounds, I lost 65 pounds in like a 2 to 3 week period. Like, it was insane. I remember I was just talking to somebody that I was on deployment with the other day, and they said, yeah, I thought it was on purpose. And I'm like, no, I lost that weight like it wasn't like intentional at all whatsoever. Like it was crazy how fast I lost that weight. And my body went into complete shock. And so when I came home from deployment, I told them like my periods didn't get better, the pain was more debilitating, my lupus, not lupus, I'm sorry, my mallet rash got worse. Like, and that's when they 100% like were like, okay, let's get you on some medications. Let's try and see if we can try to get, because there were studies showing that this medication helped with the mallet rashes and the photosensitivity rashes and all that. And then I was like, can I please be seen off base? See if I can try to find a doctor that can do the surgery again, because something is not right. And I do think that we need to try to go in again and look. I ended up finally getting seen off base. I went to a doctor over here in Stockton. She was a little bit more familiar with endometriosis. She ended up going in. She used the robotic, it's a fancy term. It's like a robotic surgeon. It's like called the Da Vinci system. It's very confusing, but I remember that day, and I remember waking up out of surgery. And this was last September, September 2025. I remember opening my eyes and I like lost it, and I was like, did they find it? I was like, did they find endometriosis? And she was like, yeah, she found it. I looked down at my stomach, and I had 4 incisions. I had one on the top left, my belly button, 2 on the right hand side, and she took pictures and everything. She ended up finding endometriosis all over my pelvic walls, my bladder. She found a benign tumor on my right ovary. And then she said she also determined that I have adenomyosis. My uterus did not look right, and it was very swollen. I don't even think that's the right term, but inflamed. Like full of inflammation. And so I cannot tell you like how much, so much like tension came off of my chest. Like I just felt like I just let it go, and I was like, somebody finally listened to me. And I finally had an answer. I did have to wait for the biopsies to come back, but once everything, literally every spot that she sent to biopsy came back positive for endometriosis tissue. And so I have, fortunately, she only did the pelvic region. She did not have a general surgeon that was able to look at the other portions of my body. And unfortunately, the surgery didn't give me, only gave me temporary relief of my pain. So I will be looking at surgery again later this year. Pending consult with another surgeon that specializes in endometriosis, and that'll look from diaphragm all the way down. And so I'm praying and praying that hopefully they'll be able to give me some relief. Nobody deserves to live in pain like this. I went through so much in my life while in the military, and it was hard because I felt like at the end of the day, all of the pain and everything that I went through, the military is instead of like allowing me to get the help and the resources that I needed, I felt like I was failed by my leadership. As being somebody that's in the military, I feel like I was told to just, let it go, and the part that was hard for me to realize was life never stopped after everything that I went through. Losing Liam, going through all the surgeries and everything. My military career didn't stop, work didn't stop, the bills definitely didn't stop. Years later, after the three egg collections, 4 embryo transfers. I make payments on an IVF loan every single month. It's a monthly reminder of a journey that ended without children. I dreamt of bringing home. And if I'm being completely honest with you, was how alone I felt through all of it. It was hard. The military is supposed to be your second family. Those are the people that have your back through it all. And through all of my health problems, I felt very alone. Last year during my surgery, I didn't have one person from my leadership check in on me other than one of my airmen, which I'm very grateful for. Checked in on me and made sure that I was okay. And he actually took me to my surgery and everything, and I'm very grateful for him. But none of my leadership did, none of them checked on me, and that was hard, I'm currently serving active duty while sick, and unfortunately, my time in the military is ending. I'm being medically, more than likely being medically retired. So those are just one of very select few medical conditions that I've talked about. I've gone through my share of other health problems while in. And I think the biggest eye-opener was my rheumatologist when I sat down with him when we were talking about what my next steps were. He said something that just completely hit my heart. And I think that's when I realized my career was done. He said to me, "The military has done more harm than good for you. You served your time and you did your time, but it's time for you to put yourself first." And that was hard, 7.5 years in the military. And yeah, I'm here now, but I have my good and bad days, I am scared to get out, but I think it's definitely what's needed. I spent years, keep my struggles quiet, tried advocating for myself with the military, and I've done so much in the military. I've been very grateful. I deployed and got to experience all kinds of things, all kinds of TDYs, and but it's time now that I put myself first and my health problems. And at the end of the day, the Air Force, the military, the DOW, we're all just a number. The only person that's going to care more about you and your health and yourself is you. The military will always find a way to replace you. And so I pretended for years that I was okay. And, I carried infertility, grief, chronic illness, and pain without showing anyone that I was breaking. And I've broken down quite a few times and gotten myself right back up, but I deployed before anyone took my symptoms seriously, and having to, lose so much weight and, not be okay on deployment and come back sicker than ever took for them to listen. I was sick. I am sick. But it's time for me, Before we wrap up today's episode, I want to leave you with this. If you are fighting a battle that nobody sees, I see you. If you've been told you're overreacting, being dramatic, or that it's all in your head, I see you. If you're grieving a version of your life you thought you'd have by now, I see you. For years, I thought that being strong meant suffering in silence. I thought I had to carry everything on my own. You don't have to carry everything on your own. The pain, the grief, the disappointment, the strength, the exhaustion. But strength isn't pretending you're okay when you're not. Strength is when you're continuing to stand up when life keeps knocking you down. My story definitely didn't end the way that I thought it would. And I have my bad days. I still cry and I get sad. And some days it does still hurt. You know, I never got to get to hold that baby, the baby that I dreamt of having. Never thought that I'd be diagnosed with chronic illness, and never thought that I'd be getting medically separated from the military. But I survived these things, even though I thought that they would break me. So this week, I want you guys all to ask yourself, what is something that you've survived that you don't give yourself enough credit for? Think about it, and if you feel comfortable, send me a message or leave a comment. I'd love to hear your answer. Thank you guys for sitting with me through this conversation. Thank you for listening, and thank you for reminding me that none of us are alone as we think we are. Take your meds, drink your water, stop ignoring your red flags, and I'll see you in the next episode of Hear Me Out. Bye, guys.